Okay, back again on Q&A. Today, had a nice day today. We've been, I live at Osho Lila, personal development community in Dorset, kind of in the southwest of England, and we've been stepping up a bit recently and doing more therapeutic work, more self-development work, and offering it out to people, and that includes also training people who are living here. And we've been doing this training day for people to lead or assist leading meditations, Osho meditations, and also Viresh meditations and therapy workshops to learn how to assist leading those, and also workshops that go on in festivals here. So that's been a great day with 7 people from the TLP, Team Leader Program and Core Group. Hey Luigi, hey man, first one in. So that's been a great day. Really, I've enjoyed it today. A little bit rushed at the end as I was kind of charging back over here to do a little bit of trading, and then put my phone on to do this live stream. I'm happy. I've been trying to check in. I've been quite busy this week, but I've been trying to check in daily a little bit. Nearly made it to check in with the new Facebook support group. I like it that we've got this. A couple of people suggested it, and I like it. You know, I'm not so into Facebook myself, but because it tends to get into a lot of virtue signaling and bitching and God knows what, and I don't feel it in my scene. It sucks my energy a bit sometimes, but I like it that everyone on there is kind of very supportive. You know, someone was putting a message in about a little bit problem sleeping, and some other guys were giving really good support, and I thought, you know, that's really nice. You know, it's great that I know I get a lot of guys following me, and guys in their 20s and 30s, and you know, that's the age group. When I was that age group, I was a pain in the fucking ass, basically, and a sort of small time bit criminal, dodgy character, punk and stuff, and very guarded and controlled, and always wanted to keep people at a safe distance, you know, knowing bad stuff about people so I could keep them at a safe distance. So it's nice to see people in the age group I was in when I was very unconscious, behaving a lot more aware. You know, it's cool. Sound, I can't quite see what you're saying. Sounds like the sound is not quite good. Sound, maybe, I don't know. Sound like me. Still not quite following. Anyway, hopefully the picture and sound are okay. I don't know, it's been a little bit flaky, the Wi-Fi, the last couple of days here. I don't know what goes on with it really. We should be on the kind of the BT home hub thing. We're pretty close to it. I don't know. Sometimes when the weather goes bad, it's like started raining again here in Dorset, you know. I can't believe it. Your youth sounds like mine. Okay, I've got you. Sorry, I thought you were giving me feedback about the audio quality or something of the recording. Yeah, you know, that kind of many years of low self-esteem and just generally underdog behaviour, fighting back at authority in society, the cops, and you know, the system, the banks, whatever, going on protesting and living in squats and all this kind of thing. That was kind of fun in a way, and I learned a lot about you, really living in this kind of underworld in the 90s, you know, underneath the normal society of people going out to work and do a job and stuff. It's kind of exciting in a way, but also, you know, I'm planning to start to do some talks about self-esteem, because it's an area where I had a lot of issues and where I've got a lot better, and I also have learned quite a lot about it all, you know, so trying to make some really easily accessible talks for people so they can start to understand self-esteem and why we develop. Hey Johnny, yeah, go for a rite of passage. Yeah man, rite of passage is almost not enough of that around these days, I think. God, there's something banging in the background from the wind. Okay, that was my little ensuite window. Yeah, rite of passage. I was reminded, I was running a men's group last weekend here at Lila with 15 guys. It was excellent, you know, just how much support guys can give each other when, you know, initially guys come in and they're a little bit, ooh, men's group, and then, you know, at some point everyone starts to share about some of the dramas and the problems being a guy these days, and giving each other support, doing some bioenergetics, getting supportive feedback to move on. Really, I love doing men's work. It's just really great weekend. Really great weekend. But it has this sort of, that you do need this kind of rite of passage somewhere. It's been a bit lost in society, and so I'm trying to bring it in a little bit back here and there, just seeing what kind of emerges from my work. Craziness, in other words. Yes, craziness. And the exercises for the throat. I mean, you just have to keep expressing somewhere. That's what the throat is such an important center, and I do the gag reflex still. If I wake up in the night and I'm not really finding myself, my energy's too in my mind, going round in drama or playing the same record over again, I get up, put my fingers down my throat. Sometimes I go to the loo. If my girlfriend's with me, then it's not so great for her to have me gag reflexing while she's trying to sleep at 2 in the morning. But it just, at some point, quite quickly, it brings my energy back into my body. But the throat generally, so it's so powerful. This belly meditation is useful also for the throat, Dynamic meditation from Osho is useful for the throat. Anything where you use your throat, and particularly where you use your belly as well. The belly and the throat are quite connected. If you want a little esoteric secret you won't hear much, then you look at the tarot cards, which have got esoteric meaning, and you often see key 13, I know this from the old days. The death is like a skeleton, usually walking with a scythe, And if you look at the skeleton on a kind of esoteric tarot deck, you'll see the skeleton is twisted at the throat and the kind of hip, at the gut level. And there's like a kind of secret, but when you start to really open the belly, you also clear a lot from the throat. That's one kind of interpretation I've heard. But yeah, the belly will get, when you get the belly going, a lot of tension around right just underneath the base of my neck, a lot starts to move, my throat starts to move, my jaw goes loose quite a lot, and I start to dribble. I have to put something underneath it. I look a bit senile, But it really, it gets stuff moving, this belly meditation. You can also use Osho dynamic meditation and really go for it in the third stage. Arms right up and really, at that kind of speed for 10 minutes. That, that regularly really shifts a lot from the throat, the shoulders, the neck, around this area. Often when I see people doing dynamic these days, they're often doing it a bit kind of not really so full on, but if you want to, you can really kick your own ass in that meditation and clear a lot. It's still, it's 40-50 years old. It's amazing. Can you talk a little bit about the possible healing crisis of diving deep into daily exercises? Yeah, for sure. Basically, it is normal that when you start to open up the muscle system of the body, where a lot of old emotions are held, that our mind has been repressing, our brain has been repressing, you can go on an emotional roller coaster. I'm not sure if you're referring to that or more physical symptoms, but certainly this sense that, if you've been a bit of a nice person all your life, you're starting to get really pissed off in some situations. If you've been a bit controlling all your life, maybe you start to feel really vulnerable at times. And whoa, you start to realise how much of a shield you've been holding the other people in the world off with, And so there is this roller coaster effect when you start to get involved in these body-based therapies. And it's good to look what you can do to get support if there's any friends around who are into the same kind of stuff. Sometimes that's part of joining workshops, is that you meet like-minded people. If there are workshops going on locally to you, then and healing crisis is a term, you can tell me a little bit more if you mean like an emotional roller coaster thing, Ria, or if it's more like something, I've been teaching this belly meditation a lot recently, and some people really getting some, weird feelings in the stomach, and often sensing like their back being 8 years, physical aspect, 8 years old or something like this, and when weird stuff was happening in the belly and strange feelings from the past. And it's pretty much expected when you start to work at a gut level. You can be a little bit more specific about the exercises you're doing if you like, and I can try and help a bit more if you feel okay to do that. Otherwise, I'll just chat about. Basically, what I'm seeing a lot with this gut is it's quite a deep journey. Uncovering the belly is like the pit really of the human psyche, and all the old gunge is held down there. So if you're in one level of ego activity, it's like the last place you want to go because it's where all the repressed stuff is. And if you're in another phase of ego activity where you really want to look inside, then it's a great place to look. It's a great place to look. But it is normal to get some level of healing crisis. What also supports on a physical level is drinking a lot of water, you know, particularly if you're getting headaches and stuff like this, because as the cells, as the muscles start to unlock, you know, if you're doing regular bioenergetics or, you know, screaming and shouting therapy or rebirthing, this kind of thing on a regular basis, if you're really working with the body, then at some point the cells start to unload toxins and gunge that's been held there from some of the negativity we've held onto inside of ourselves or the repressed stuff. It definitely seems to happen, and it's quite common to get nasty headaches. Drinking a lot of water is usually a cure because, or a treatment, a good step anyway, because, you know, the bloodstream is getting a lot of toxins in it and you need to get those flushed out. You can also consider having a colonic, like where someone basically sticks a hose up your bum, you pay them 50 quid and flushes all the old gunge out. That can help. Or an enema, something like that. And you know, that can help with stuff like headaches, which are fairly common. The other stuff is more emotional mood swings, which is quite common, and you just have to look what support. I've got a video about the emotional roller coaster online, and people have found that quite healthy, quite useful. Cole Turner, hi Cole. Hi Dev, how permanent is the transformation from bioenergetics? Do you have to keep doing it to keep the good effects? It's like anything you do with your body, really, as I see it. You know, some level of maintenance is good, but what basically happens is, you know, you get better and you can slip back because the mind tries to hold a state of stasis. So, which means it likes to stay the same. It's willing to have a little bit of change here and there, but it wants to stay the same. So, you know, it's very common. I get it myself. You go away and you get really clear. You know, I do a big workout with bio in the morning or something, but my mind will kick in and I'll start to get involved in all sorts of things that maybe not always I need to, you know, and it's re-establishing itself. But if you keep going, it's like 4 steps forward, 2 steps back, 4 steps forwards, 2 steps back, or 4-3 or 4-1 if you're lucky, you know, and you keep moving and change happens over time. You know, every now and again you could get, it depends on your personality or your body type a little bit, but, or how stuff is stuck in you, you can get a huge release, you know, where someone's weeping their eyes out for a period of time and they feel like, wow, this whole massive emotional tension you didn't even maybe realize they were carrying around came out, you know, and there's a great release. And stuff will still try and re-establish itself at a mental level, but there's been a big change. You know, you could get that, or you can get ongoing small change. Certainly, it's not realistic to expect one session to create, you know, a lifelong transformation. It is something you want to keep doing and just look, you know, if it's starting to work for you to maintain it. The thing is, it does create lasting change. And a lot of therapy, in my experience, doesn't always do this. You know, there's a lot of claims. And it is something that when you've got into it, you can do a lot on your own and you don't have to spend a ton of cash to giving it to therapists and stuff like that. If, for instance, you don't have the stuff. So I would say the change is strong, but you've got to watch out that the mind is always trying to re-establish itself. Even though it doesn't really have any physical existence, it's still a very powerful force for stasis. And, you know, we get urges, you know, people go and do a workshop, they're really open, they're really clear, they're grounded, they're in their power, and they start to go home, and then it's like, oh, I'll just stop at a McDonald's, or maybe I'll go to the pub, have a few beers, and it's the mind re-establishing old patterns. And to a degree, maybe you have to negotiate a little bit, and okay, really, I'm just going to have a half of that, or I'm just going to have a snack, which is not a McDonald's, but some nuts, which I also like, or something like that. You know, you've got to look very practically. It's a great question. You know, it's not I don't know of any therapy, and I've worked with quite a lot of stuff, including some heavy drug therapy stuff in my time, like Ibogaine, but that really creates permanent lasting shift in one go. You know, it's an unrealistic expectation in my opinion, though you never know when something miraculous could happen. So that's what I would say. I missed anything here? No. Yeah, you know, it's just what I do. I start to get into it. Is it okay to do exercise every day? Absolutely, man. The last couple of years I've really been on it in my own life, and it's rare I miss a day without doing at least half an hour in the morning of bio, unless it's really not. Sometimes when I'm travelling, it's not possible to make any noise. You know, that's a good thing about bio. You don't need to usually make too much noise. I've been doing the belly thing and jumping with it, and that winds people up like crazy. So I have to look where I do that. Otherwise, understandably, it's a bit of a pain in the arse to be subjected to that from next door at 7 in the morning. But it's great to do the exercises regularly. You just need to be careful. You know, you've got to know your own mind a little bit. If, say, for example, you have a tendency to push really hard at something, then don't overdo it, you know. With the body positions and postures, the basic idea is that you do them and you stay on the edge of your comfort zone, you know. So, you know, don't push too hard so you end up hurting yourself and thinking, shit, I'm not going to do this again. But at the same time, don't totally let yourself off the hook. Over time, you develop a useful amount of discipline. But it's great to do it daily. How better can we do the workouts on a week? Can you give a schedule, for example? I mean, at the moment, I tend to stick with one practice while I'm feeling it, you know. And I've been doing the belly meditation for half an hour, belly activation, I suppose I should call it, which is something on my site, kind of a new version of that. And I've been doing a bow and arch for about 20-25 minutes afterwards. And it's very powerful. It's moving. The belly kind of loosens up my upper body and gets me more grounded. And then the bow and arch starts to really shake out some stuff in my back. I still have a lot around the top of my back and holding around there. But I'm keen to keep moving, you know. And so that's my tendency, you know. I don't tend to travel around the exercises so much. I'll probably have one core exercise that I'm going to do, like the belly at the moment. And then I could also maybe do a kind of bit of teenager freak out. Or I might do some lying on the foam roller for my belly also. So I'll do the belly meditation for half an hour, and then I'll do 20-30 minutes of something else, maybe something like that. That's how I'm kind of doing it. I'm kind of hoping in the longer run to create some kind of workout schedules for people, you know, to get it all a bit more professional and Americanized, I suppose, because I know that's useful when you're starting, you know. You are the man. Cheers, Cole. Do you believe aliens have visited the Earth? Well, I mean, who knows, you know. I know when, about 15 years ago, I was busy with a drug called Ibogaine. It's a West African shamanic drug used to treat drug addiction. I didn't have addiction issues, not heavy, big time anyway, but nevertheless. And something that people would anyway share, sometimes I'll be involved with a lot of other people who are taking Ibogaine, and you would kind of, you know, and I had this experience myself, this sense of like, somewhere about you go back in time on the drug. It's a bit hallucinogenic, and it lasts a long time. I was out of it for 7 days once, and you often would see kind of strange insect creatures coming to Earth, this kind of thing, and that's a very common vision if you take a drug called ayahuasca. Many years ago, a guy called Michael someone wrote a book called The Way of the Shaman or something like that, and he described it, and it was very, very common that people would see these things. So who really knows about aliens and stuff? I think the guy who wrote that book, The Beach, Alex Garland, was famous about 15 years ago for that, and he's made some new movie. I think he did one before about robots, sexy robot women, called, can't remember what it was called, someone can remind me, about 3 or 4 years ago, and he's made one now, and I think the bottom line is that, you know, some scientists discover that aliens have visited or something like that, or, you know, we don't really know, for instance, we're not totally sure about some areas of our evolutionary history, so who knows. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, the thing is, it's not really useful to freak out about it too much. And being around the alternative scene and the conspiracy scene for a long time, something I also learned was, I had a lot, when I was really into conspiracy stuff about the banks and nationwide control, you know, worldwide control and domination of various sects or whatever, you know, and the reptiles and stuff, I noticed a lot of parallels in when I became more honest with my dad. Basically, not that he was like a reptilian or something, but he was extremely controlling. That was my perception of him as a kid. And I didn't like that control. And, you know, at some point in my 30s, I started to get really attracted to conspiracy theories about worldwide secret control. And I was in some ways one of the lucky ones that I started to make some parallels to my dad, did some therapy, and I was no longer so busy with it. I'm sure there is worldwide secret control, but I'm not so busy with it. And likewise with aliens, there's another area of conspiracy theories where people really get into the idea that, I think there's somewhere in America, Area 51 or something, where the American government's keeping them all. 15 years ago, that was a popular thing anyway. And what I kind of that's where someone's psyche is a bit splintered. They get very attracted to these theories sometimes. So what I find is like, you know, it's good to look at any personal psychological connections as well. Especially if you find yourself spending a lot of time on the internet reading theories about aliens and trying to convince yourself. It's good to examine if there's a possibility, there's a personal connection there. There was for me. Thank you. Desire to visit Algeria, you'll be welcome. Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you. Yeah, I used to go to Morocco a lot. They don't. Yeah, they complain about the Algerians, but they used to say they're the deuxième française. But all the Algerians used to say that about Moroccans. I think it was the other way around. I can't really remember. But I love North Africa, and I'd love to go to Algeria sometime. I love North Africa very much. I'm part Iranian myself, which is a bit different, but I do like Arab culture very much, and I do miss it. You know, the Europe can be a bit kind of, you know, I miss the Medina, you know, I miss the action of like the Jamorfna in Marrakesh. There's nothing in Europe like that. Anyway, cool, man. And how did you start doing bioenergetics? I was going to therapy groups about 15 years ago. The Humaniversity in Holland, which is still going, a great place. And part of it was you had to do bioenergetics. It was a very full-on therapeutic process. Full-on stuff, you know, not sleeping for days sometimes and doing God knows what crazy therapies to loosen you all up. And I was up for that at the time. I really wanted to change. And part of it was bioenergetics, which I used to fucking hate, basically. I used to hate it. It was a very attractive woman that used to run the bioenergetics. But whenever I saw her come in the room, I'd think, oh, God, no, bioenergetics. Shit, you know, and doing the bow and arch a lot and this kind of thing. I used to hate it, but at some point I recognised that it was really creating a lot of change, and I started to get into it a bit more. Have you heard of the Venus Project? Yeah, I heard of that. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people been out there for the last 20 years trying to work out how to make society better, and, you know, without sounding too flippant, it's not really my scene in a way, in that I recognise there's absolutely a part of my mind that wants to work out how the world should be. But what I learned through therapy and meditation was, you know, you can't really fix it with your mind and with thinking, you know. And what tends to happen, we tend to try and create a world or imagine creating a world in which we avoid certain core woundings. And this is, you know, this is very, very clear for me, really. And I've heard a bit about the Venus Project. I remember the guy who made that big conspiracy film, Zeitgeist, was into it for a while. I can't remember his name, Peter Joseph, maybe something like that. But, you know, it's like, normally when I meet people who are really busy with changing the world and I get them in the group room, fuck, they've got some stuff in their body. Fuck, they've got some stuff in their body, you know. Because, especially for younger people, the ego is very strong. I say, I'm 57, but when you're in your 20s, you know, for most people, they don't really have to look inside very much, because any issues they've got, you just project them on the outside world, you know. Simple as that, you know. It's like, that's what you're doing. No, I ain't got a problem, man. I ain't got a problem, you know. It's like, it's out there. It's the world that's a problem. It's the world that needs to change, you know. And so a lot of energy goes into projects, and people get together to want to change the world and make it a more positive, beautiful place. And it all sounds great. And basically, it's a colossal avoidance strategy. And there's a lot of that going on. And not all of it, you know, maybe only 99%, but I would say 99% is accurate, you know. And I don't want to be mean, you know. Of course, the world is fucking horrific for some people, but the reality is that the mind ain't really going to fix it. And if you want to change things, you need to, first of all, you know, you need to clear out the stuff in your own body. You need to clear out the stuff in your own body. Gone, is it me? I don't know. I'm still, I haven't got, usually YouTube sends some message about how you're cutting out and blah, blah, blah. But it hasn't done that yet. Yeah, so what was I saying? Yeah, so watch out for the impulse to change the world, you know, and get involved in that. It's okay, you know, and I'm still a bit in that scene with cryptocurrencies and stuff, but look, you know, is there something, an internal conflict that I'm avoiding, you know? I'm not a huge fan of Carl Jung, famous old psychologist, but he came out with a few great sayings, and one of them was, when you don't want to examine the divisions or the conflicts or something like this inside your own being, you know, the world seems to be split to you, you know? And sometimes I work with conspiracy theorists, you know, I talk to people, you know, and they're guys who are just spending 6 hours a day on the internet reading about conspiracy theories. The motivation is personal, I guarantee it. You know, 99.999999% guaranteed. The motivation is personal. It's a personal avoidance strategy, probably from the dad. The dad was maybe very controlling or something like that in the life. Are you aware of Elliot Hulse and his way of bioenergetics? What do you think about it? Yeah, I think Elliot's great. I haven't, you know, I know he's got some, he does bioenergetics in his grounding camps and Osho meditations. And I don't know so much about how much bioenergetics he does. I've seen him on YouTube a bit doing bio. In fact, I actually started this channel when I was looking around for, you know, who's teaching bio on YouTube. And I saw Elliot and I saw him doing some stuff. But also I thought no one is really just getting down to the real practicalities of it, you know. This is this exercise, this is what it looks like, this is what you should watch out for, this is how long you should do it for, blah, blah, blah. This is what psychologically it will work on. So that's what I wanted to bring in my channel. So I don't know if he's from a certain school of bioenergetics. I don't know if there's the Alexander Lowen school kind of still going in America. But I certainly think Elliot is a very beautiful guy and a great guy. I had a conversation on Skype with him once because we were interested to see if he wanted to do his grounding camp here at the centre in the UK, and we never really quite managed to work it out. But I really think he's an awesome man, and I really support what he's doing in the US and in Europe when he comes over, particularly for young guys, you know, and giving them somewhere where they can come together and really go for it. We're doing something a bit similar here actually called Spiritual Boot Camp this year, which is like a 3-day bioenergetics intensive here. You know, and it'll be run by me. And I don't know, Elliot's a fantastic presence. I don't know what his background as a therapist is, or his number of years in the trade and that. He's got an amazing energy. I don't know what his background is. I've not done a workshop with him myself. But we will be doing here at Leela, if you're in Europe or in the UK, a thing called Spiritual Boot Camp at the end of June. There's going to be some promo videos coming out for it soon when we finish getting our shit together with that. But that'll be 3 days of bio and excellent fun, and you will learn a lot from that. That's going to be an awesome thing going on. Yeah, what are your top tips for nervous system regulation? I don't know much about that kind of thing. If there's something more personal in the sense of something that's going on for you, you could if you feel to share that, and I could do my best. But I don't know so much about regulating the nervous system. It sounds like something more neurological. It's a bit out of my domain. Be the change. Well, yeah, whatever. Have you ever tried LSD or psilocybin mushrooms, and what is your opinion for trying it? Yes, I've tried both of those. The mushrooms, quite a lot of them in the old days. Yeah, a lot of them, they grow in the UK, particularly in Wales, but they also grow all over the place. But around October, before the frost comes in. And LSD, I had a very strong bad experience actually on LSD when I was 24, and I never took it after that. I have quite a strong reaction to tryptamines. They can really spin me out quite strong. So I do occasionally take a little bit of ayahuasca. I've taken ibogaine as well, but I probably would avoid acid. Maybe I'd be okay with it now, but you know, I think those things are okay. And certainly stuff like ayahuasca and ibogaine, you know, have therapeutic value. But you know, when I took those kind of things, I was just taking them recreationally, you know. And you know, I used to take a load of mushrooms on Monday night. Monday was a boring night in my 20s, you know, when I was back living in Colchester for a while, living with my mate Mark and a few other people. And we'd go out and pick some mushrooms on the weekend, and Monday night was always boring. So we'd take a load of mushrooms and, you know, kind of go down the pub, because you can consume a phenomenal amount of beer on mushrooms, like 10, 12 pints. When the mushrooms wear off, then you just keel over wherever you are. But nevertheless, it was kind of fun at the time. Probably not very good for my body. It's the sort of thing you do, well, certainly when you come from Essex and you're in your 20s, back in the 80s or so. But, you know, I think most things are okay, but I don't think, you know, that in terms of therapy, I think it's okay to use drugs occasionally, is my opinion. But I was around this drug scene quite a lot with the entheogens, ayahuasca, and I went to conferences and iboga and stuff. And it's a lot of young guys in their 30s, massively just into taking drugs, and now they're taking slightly better ones than before and going on huge kind of trips to meet God or whatever. And I'm also a little bit skeptical, to be honest, you know, of the real changes that are made. I've met quite a few people who are very shamanic and in this kind of thing. Get them in the group room, usually, fuck me, they're sitting on a lot of stuff. You know, the body doesn't lie at the end of the day. You know, the mind can lie like fuck. You know, you can come out of any amount of bullshit off the planet, especially if you've been caning it on substances for 10 years. But you get someone in some bioenergetic postures, and pretty soon I can see, well, yes, there's still really rather a lot going on inside your body, despite the fact that you're some great shaman or something like this. And, you know, in terms of being, you know, they might be connected to the spirit realm or something like that, but in terms of actually really having cleared a lot of the influences of repression out of their own body and their own system, usually not so much in my experience. Do you have any tips for not shaking when nervous? Which bioenergetics are best for that? I mean, what I would actually do, you know, a great treatment for spontaneous shaking in some ways is to shake like fuck at times. Obviously not when you're in a social setting, but to actually let your body really shake. And I've got some exercises there that can help to induce spontaneous shaking, and it can help. I used to go to there's this guy in Bali called Ratu Bagus, who's a shaking guru, R-A-T-U, new word B-A-G-U-S, who's a shaking guru, and he lives he's got an ashram on the foot slopes of a big volcano out there. I forget its name. It'll come back to me at some point. Gunung Agung volcano. And a friend of mine who had spontaneous shaking for a long time, in fact, was diagnosed by multiple doctors, he was German, went out there and did proper shaking, and it cured him of his spontaneous shaking, you know. So he found it very difficult, you know, to meet women because he'd be always kind of shaking, and that was a major drag for him, basically. And he started to do this shaking, and it started to he stopped shaking. He would do some level of shaking in the day, and then the spontaneous shaking that was coming up at times when it wasn't welcome, like when he was a bit nervous, would go away. So with shaking, you've got to, there's a couple of things that I know. It can just be anxiety, in the same way that stuttering can be anxiety, you know. And for that, yeah, opening the throat, grounding yourself more in the belly, doing any level of body-based therapy expression is going to help, you know. And also it can be shaking that's coming when the muscles are just starting to release more. And I get that in bioenergetics a lot, and a lot of people come to me for that kind of Kundalini advice and stuff like that. So it depends a little bit which it is. But if it's something that you shake when you recognise that you're nervous or a bit socially anxious, generally you want to try and get more centering around your body, around your gut, you know. Osho dynamic meditation is great. Heavy drink and shake, yeah, delirium tremens or something like that. I think the main treatment for that is that you have to stop drinking, basically. But certainly there used to be a lot of that. The DTs, they call them in England, in the old days. Haven't heard that expression for a long time. I've been out of alcohol culture for quite a while now. But I do get the odd urge. But I think, yeah, for shaking when nervous, you know, you want to try and center yourself, ground yourself, and, you know, if you're clear that you're getting like triggered by something around, like, you know, you're talking to someone you find attractive, or you're in a certain type of social setting or whatever, you know, you can do some therapy around that, you know. And generally what you need to do in this kind of body-based therapy is go find a safe space where you can go deeper into the underlying feeling, you know, and that can start to really clear things. Because when we're sort of operating from our egoic level, the kind of upper mind or whatever you want to call it, you know, we just want things to go away. You know, we want, you know, if we're a young guy and we want to be attractive to women, we just want stuttering to go away. We try and suppress it, but it's unlikely to work. That's just giving an example. And actually what you need to do really, or the strategy from the body, is more to find, you know, a therapist or an exercise where you can go more deeply into the underlying emotion. Because if you go more deeply into it, something will start to clear at some point. It might not be one session, but it will start to clear at some point. I think it's because they don't shake while drunk. Could be. I don't know what the reason for the DTs is, except I know it's something that's associated with people who've been drinking alcohol for a long time. Yeah. How are we doing? Oh, got another 20 minutes or so. Yes, if you're sitting there thinking, "Oh, will I ask that question or not?" You know, you can always you feel free to ask it. You know, take a risk if you feel like taking a risk. It can be I don't know. A lot of things start from taking a risk. You know, there was this famous old book about the Grail legends and stuff. Thomas, hey Devaraj, nice to see you again. Hey Thomas, nice to hear from you. I used to tense my belly muscles unconsciously. How can I stop this? Well, I mean, my belly is often a bit tense, to be honest, and in some ways, if it's excessive, then I guess it's not good. I mean, breathing out is the main thing that we use to stop belly tension, really, just to simply breathe out. And I think, you know, working with this belly activation and stuff like that, you start to go through layers of tension in the gut. Otherwise, the classic thing is to really express, you know, to have a space where you can shout and get yourself into a kind of good body position for shouting, which is, well, let's get off my ass and see if you can see me, you know, like a great body position for emotional expression is kind of feet quite wide apart, knees bent, ass down low, backbone straight, arms by your side, and start to go, I can feel immediately some stuff in the back of my neck moving. Trying to make like a deep sound from around your belly, from around your throat, you know. This also starts to release belly tension. Hopefully that can help. I've noticed that when you sleep on your belly, it helps relax your gut. Oh, well, that might be true. I've never been able to sleep on my belly or really tried. I'm usually on my back or then one side or the other. But yeah, that would make some sense, I guess. Certainly when you use, also, yeah, belly tension. I've forgotten the main thing, of course, is to use the old yoga roller. You can pop down the shop. They sell them in TK Maxx. And be gentle when you first start, but basically you put it on the floor and you lie on top of it over your belly and you stay there for like 5-10 minutes if it's not too uncomfortable, just trying to relax. If you look up my YouTube channel about 2 weeks ago, you can find it. You can find me demonstrating and explaining the exercise. That's another great one for the belly. Forgot that before. Ursula, great stuff. Thanks. Is it possible to have online bioenergetics? Yep, I do. Bioenergetics online, or just discussing about general issues. If you email me devaraj227@gmail.com or message me, I'll try and remember to look later, but my memory is a bit crap sometimes. So if you can get me on my website devaraj.org.uk and look for one-to-one sessions there. I charge £30 UK for 45 minutes. No problem. Yeah, I have done this for the last weeks, but it happens again. I just need to track back. Yeah, you've done this for the last week, but it happens again, and I get anxious. Have a think about trying the roller, you know, and work with the you know, it's also the case that when you're working at a gut level, you know, you're working pretty deep inside the psyche, really, and you know, sometimes things get worse before they get better, you know, which is not always what we want to hear. But sometimes things do get worse before they get better. Because what you're really doing with the body is you're digging stuff out, you know, that's affecting your conscious mind, but the root of it is deeper in. And so with the bioenergetics, effectively what we're doing is we're digging. We're going to look for the shit, basically. We're going to look to clear it out. And to a degree, you know, it may come out and you're not even particularly aware of it. You might have some shaking and it just goes, and that's great. Or it may come out and you find your mind being quite affected by it for a while. Your emotional state going up and down. It can be like toxins being released into your bloodstream, giving you headaches and stuff like that, or low energy. You can go back into old patterns of avoidant behavior. You can get old feelings that may be stored at a cellular level if you've got a history of certain drug using behaviors, alcohol using behaviors, getting triggered, and suddenly you want to have a drink, suddenly you want to go and seek crack cocaine or whatever. You know, there's a lot of stuff that can happen as you start to open up the gut. You know, but over time, generally, stuff does start to move, and I get anxious. Yeah. I mean, look, if the anxiety, sometimes it can be good. You know, it's hard on one of these sessions. If you're interested to do like a 45-minute session and you're okay to pay a little bit of money, then you know we can also look at it a bit more deeply one-to-one there. But it's a little bit tricky on this to give more direct advice. It would be better for me to really check in with you and ask a bit more what's happening emotionally and what's happening for you inside, and what else is going on in your life. But I'm happy to try here, but it's not always it's not always so easy. Cole, my friend here is sitting next to me and he's not sure if bioenergetics will help him. He suffers from anxiety, wakes up at night with his heart pounding. Do you have any words of wisdom for him? I mean, at the end of the day, with any therapy, all you can do is give it a go and see if it helps. Give it a go and see if it helps. And like I say, it may help. It can even sometimes make things worse for a while, you know. But when you work with the body, generally, you know, you start to really take something on and you start to clear it. And anxiety wakes up in heart pounding. So that sounds like some kind of fear reaction that's being triggered on the inside. And sometimes people get a kind of sentinel effect when they're trying to sleep, because the mind is dealing with some inner kind of old trauma that's coming up a little bit inside of them, and it tends to think it's on the outside, so we keep really awake to make sure we're safe or something like that. I mean, anxiety, it's very good to work at a belly level, really, you know. Then you're really going actually into it, you know, which obviously doesn't sound always what you want to do, but I mean, you're really starting to go into it. The other classic approach with anxiety is to work with, like, you know, behavioral therapy, where it's not quite so body based, but you start to look for safe ways of doing stuff you're anxious about, and you have to keep really breathing and feeling your body. At the end of the day, anxiety is, I mean, essentially what you need to do is to really feel it on some level. And this push-pull dynamic in the mind, you know, from a body-based approach, we go deeper into it. We dig up the underlying wounds or the underlying conflicts inside that are triggering the anxious response on the surface. So that may be not what you want to do, or maybe not what you feel to do at this time. You can also look, like I say, at a kind of behavioural approach of finding a way to get, you know, guys I know work with improvisational comedy and stuff, where you have to get up on stage and just start talking in front of people, and it's kind of very confrontational, you know, especially if you have some level of social anxiety. You know, you can do stuff like that to help with social anxiety. It has a legitimate therapeutic possibilities. Again, it's a little tricky. You know, I probably need a bit more information to try and do something. And sometimes on these Q&A things, it's not quite the right setting. But I'm happy if you want to reveal more to try. That was the answer I was looking for. Again, might have to track back a little bit to see where we were before. Okay, great, Ria, thank you. Have you heard of muscle activation exercises? They seem similar. I haven't heard of that. If you've got a link sometime, you could send it to me, and I'd be interested to read about that. Thank you for your knowledge, Devaraj. Thank you. I'm quite interested in bioenergetics involving opening the belly. When I try to open up my belly by laying on top of a ball, sometimes it hurts a lot. Is this normal? It can be, you know, it can be. You know, if there's a lot of tension there, you know, or you know, it can be quite painful, and you need to take it slow, and maybe use a ball that's not too, or a cushion or something that's not too much for you at first, and just see if over time, if it's a practical thing for you to do to start to shift some belly tension. You can also work with the belly activation that's on my channel. It's certainly quite common that people find the ball painful when there's a lot of belly tension, because what you want to do is you want to ideally just completely flake out over the ball, or over a yoga roller, or they call it UK foam roller, I think they call them in the US. Basically just to completely lie over it and breathe deep through the mouth and just try to utterly relax over it, you know, is ideally what you want to do, and that will give the belly some of the tension a chance to kind of flow out of you, and have a little bit of space afterwards to just sit and not have to do anything too much. It can stir up quite a lot. You know, the belly, you can also look at your diet and see if there's things you can improve. Sometimes the body gets addicted to certain substances which aren't so good for it. You can look at colon cleansing. I used to do a thing called the Arise and Shine cleanse many years ago, which was like a 28-day colon cleanse from California. Cool. Yeah, a lot of people are interested in the belly, hey? I need to somewhere, I feel like, I need to do also a bit more research, because I've kind of, I'm getting right into this belly work, and I've actually reached the limits of my own knowledge a little bit with the belly activation, with the roller, with expressing from the belly. So it will be good for me to also try and see if there's some more stuff I can integrate into this belly thing, because a lot of people are getting interested in it, and I think it's really excellent work to do. The most exciting thing I find about the belly work is that it affects the rest of the body. It's like your belly center is your natural power center, and so it's so important, I think, to try and reoccupy it, and then your need for a lot of other therapies or stuff just diminishes massively in my experience. And it also kind of, I feel, it's like the tide going out, and I can feel somewhere all the areas of my upper body where there's still a lot of tension in my upper back and other parts of my back. I suddenly become aware of it, whereas before I was still in a relatively blissfully ignorant space. And then I'm like, what the fuck, I've still got a lot of tension around here. I need to keep maintaining this practice. So I'm enjoying doing the belly activation thing for half an hour in the morning, followed by some bow and arch or shoulder release or something like that. And I'm teaching it a lot right now. Yeah, cool. So I need to make a note to myself to keep looking up belly stuff. Okay, we've got about another 10 minutes. If you've got a question of any sort, I'll do my best. I apologise if I don't quite get to you. I think I don't get so many people that I can't answer for questions. I know some guys do live sessions about something else usually, and I watch them and they got just herds of questions, and sometimes people being real trolls to them and stuff like that. But yeah, I haven't really got that. And I think therapy is a little bit more I don't know, it's like it's a bit more sincere in a way, I'm not kind of getting up there putting out a lot of polemic and stuff. A little bit on my channel sometimes, but not so much. I think the main people come for me for is therapy, which is what I know, and though I do have other interests, I'm not so knowledgeable about that stuff really. Yeah, definitely. Since I started opening my belly, I started laughing a lot more. It's crazy. Well, laughing, of course, is all... Nah, that's great. It's also... Laughing is also a much not rated therapy. When I'm doing some very intense bio, sometimes I do this exercise where I make people hold their arms up in the air and run around for like half an hour. It's a way of opening up parts of the shoulders where we keep a lot of kind of low self-esteem stuff, keeping the head down when you were a kid because your dad was a bit angry or something like that. You can clear that with this exercise, or certainly start to really open that area up. And when it's getting really tough, and you can tell people that, I'm really on the edge of what I can hold, 20 people with their arms in the air, probably all wanting to fucking kill me. Laughing is one of the... Expression is good, but laughing really, really helps. Likewise in the bow and arch, when you're doing particularly the bow position, leaning back, try laughing. If you're really struggling in a bioenergetic exercise, if it's something where you can laugh, in the arch it's not so easy because you're leaning forwards, but something where your chest is open, your belly's open, try just laughing, because laughing is a fucking awesome way to move energy. It's also I don't think animals laugh so much, but it's somewhere, it is very natural. It is very hyenas, but there's probably a couple of others that do. But basically it does really move belly energy, so laughing is great. In the old Osho days, there was a meditation called the Mystic Rose, which was like a 3-week process that Osho sannyasins would do. And the first week is all, I think the first week is all laughing. You just have to laugh for like 3 hours a day, basically. You're in a group room full of people and you just laugh for 3 hours. And it opens it all up. The second week you have to cry for 3 hours. And the third week you do a kind of sitting meditative exercise for 3 hours. It was called the Mystic Rose. But laughing is something that is overlooked a bit, in our culture, and has a lot of therapeutic potential. I remember hearing about a book by a guy who was supposed to die of cancer, and he just sat in a hotel room and laughed like crazy for 24 hours and said the cancer went away. I mean, you never know with these stories, but for me, laughing is a powerful, and I don't use it as much as I could, actually. I could use it a bit more in some of my sessions and workshops that I run. Maybe I'll stick it out on YouTube. Let me make a little note about that. YouTube laughing. So great, thank you for mentioning that. That's useful. What's the minimum time gap from eating food to belly workout? God. Yes, well, I'd certainly give it an hour at least. I mean, I do it in the mornings before I eat. So that kind of works for me. But I would certainly give it an hour, personally. I don't know what your metabolism well, I know you a bit, Luigi, anyway, but I would give it an hour, you know. And if you're still a little bit concerned, then maybe a bit longer, because you are really pumping into the belly when you get going with it, and you know, you want to do that without too much food in there, I think, really. You know, I'm not a medical person, but I think at least an hour is a good idea. Usually when I'm running workshops, you know, I give people a couple of hours off for lunch, you know, because if we're going to be doing something intense in the afternoon, you need time to process, for your body to process for food. Cool, I'm up to date with the questions. We've just got another 5 minutes or so if anyone's got a desperate question. I'm still looking if I think next Tuesday for sure I'm going to do this, and I might try next Friday or Saturday as well. I'm doing something on Friday, I can't remember what it is. I'm going up to London on Thursday for the blockchain conference, but certainly next Friday. I think I might do next Friday or next Saturday. I'm not quite sure yet. I think Friday probably. Yeah, my belly ache's quite bad for a few minutes after. Yeah, look if it's sort of manageable and okay, or if it's too much. This belly activation thing is pretty powerful, and it is slowly going in deep. And you do need to. I haven't heard anyone really get anything that I considered really bad from it yet, but certainly you need to treat your body with care, and not charge in too much whenever you're working with the body. You know, build it up slow, and that way you also get a result. It's also not a, you know, your mind's a bit like a computer, but your body is not really. Thomas, how do you know if you have achieved emotional balance or something like it? Would you advise to just keep going even when the effect decreases? I mean, if you're talking about the therapy and bioenergetics in general, I mean, with therapy, the main reason people come for groups in many ways is that they want to make some progress, you know, with a certain issue, like the classic issues that we have, or the areas that we, you know, when we look at what creates human satisfaction, it's usually stuff around friendships, having good friendships that you feel good about, lovers, you know, that you can attract the people and you feel okay to approach people that you're attracted to, and job, work, you know, having a role in society. And so usually, you know, that they're a good marker. When I started doing therapy, I wanted to get a girlfriend. Hadn't had a girlfriend for a long time. And then after a year of groups, I got a girlfriend. So it was like, wow, you know, I got there. You know, so generally, that's how I measure therapy in a sense, is are you starting to get your needs more met? If it's something like anxiety that someone's coming from, do you start to feel socially more confident? Are you now able to go and join the group of cool guys in the corner and chat to them, or go up to the bar and make some nice comments at the waitress, you know, and stuff you were really scared about before? Are you more able to approach people? You know, whatever the issue is. You know, if you're too angry all the time and, you know, people are keeping you at arm's length, you know, you can moderate. You can kind of assess subjectively how you're doing by going into situations where you'd be too pissed off or triggered before, and seeing if you can just be okay with them, you know. So I tend to I don't know about emotional balance so much, but I tend to, you know, just look at what the issue is socially that someone might have got, and see if it's improving. Find a way to try and for them to measure it, you know. And it may be that you simply want to really expand your leadership ability, to feel confident to talk in front of a load of people, to lead a team, to inspire people, you know. And again, you know, there's stuff you can do for that, and you see how you feel doing it, you know. And I think that's a good way to assess any therapy, if it's working. Ideally, you've got something that you want to improve. Okay, so how can I work on my expression of loving someone? I always feel really distant. Huge thanks already. You feel really distant. Okay, so it's about really being able to connect with other people. I mean, any level of emotional expression stuff is going to help, you know. Connecting with people often, you know, as long as it's not a threatening situation, being able to expose some level of vulnerability with people, you know, is usually useful. And developing some presence so that, you know, people can feel you. Of loving someone, you know, feeling okay to really give to them, you know, to really give to them. Sometimes guys, for example, are brought up, well, they were in my day, you know, you kind of, with women, you kind of treat them mean, keep them keen, these kind of games that people play in relationships. Obviously not to do that anymore, but to, you know, to to experience really, and to try, you know, if you want to really love someone, what gets in the way. We're coming a little bit to the end of the session. You know, I'd be very happy to chat to you and do a one-to-one session sometimes with you if you want to talk more about it, because it's, you know, you're not on a public forum there and stuff like that. And you also, I don't know, I just have to work things out a little bit from what you write, and obviously you can only write questions in with the keyboard and stuff. It's not like talking, but you've also got to look, I think, when you say for expression of loving someone, are you looking for someone to cling on to? I don't know, you know, it's just a little bit idea that comes up for me. I always feel really distant, you know. It's like, yeah, I mean, getting closer to the feelings always helps, eh? When you want to make a connection with a woman, for example, they're probably going to want to feel you at some point, unless they're just in their own trip, just going for some trophy man, or just trying desperately to get their own inadequacies kind of patched over on the surface. They're probably going to want to feel you, you know, and that you can practice expressing what's really going on in your heart, what's really going on in your life, you know, in a way that other people want to engage with you. Looking at your own personal story and making it as personal as possible. Those are tips and stuff, you know, about how to engage people, you know, so that you don't feel distant. You know, something you can do is to say to someone who you know is a little bit open, maybe, you know, I'm feeling really distant right now. What can I do to reduce that? What can I do to help, you know, to reveal your underlying emotional state? So often we make statements that in a way covering over what we're really feeling, you know, and it's quite radical and exciting to meet someone who actually just talks about what they're feeling. You know, you can have some chit chat and stuff as well, but who also can just really talk about what they're feeling, instead of just going in a reaction with it and trying to kind of steer around it or something like this, you know, and just revealing and sharing. And we're coming to the end anyway, but for sure, man, if you want to get in touch and think about doing a session, I work quite a bit with social anxiety and stuff like that, or whatever it is. I've got so many different people asking me about their stuff. I can't quite remember the whole story for you. I apologise. Anyway, I'm coming to the end of the stream now. 7 o'clock is dinner time at Osho Lila. I'm not super hungry, but I'd like to go and have a little bit of food, I think. My girlfriend's going out drinking with her Italian friends tonight, so I don't know what I'm going to do, doss around a bit. I've been running a lot of stuff recently, so I may just really try and go to ground and not use my mind too much. But yeah, feel free to put likes on. These American YouTube people always say that at the end, eh? They're so good at promoting their stuff, but maybe I should learn more of that, I don't know. But I'm very happy with the channel and how it's going. I've got over 1,000 people now, and I'm just really chuffed that we can do this kind of work online. I've also got, if you're in the Southern English area, I've got a workshop, a one-day workshop this weekend on Sunday in Brighton at 11 AM. It's £50 paid in advance, or 60 on the door. Message me if you'd like some info about that. I'll leave a link. Hey guys, see you again later. I think I'll be back on Friday probably. I'll leave a little note on the bottom of this video. Friday and Tuesday next at 6 PM UK time. Bye for now.